Whether you love it or hate it, embrace it or avoid it like the plague, social networking is the hottest use of technology in our society today. Whether it stays at this fevered pitch or for how long does remain to be seen. Far be it for Microsoft to be left out. But despite the recent surge in popularity of SharePoint as an enterprise information and document management platform, its use as a social computing platform has been left somewhat in the dust, if I dare say. That is, until SharePoint 2013. SharePoint is all about collaboration, and therefore it also needs to be about social computing. My sites were an initial foray into that area. Likes and ratings followed, along with a few other features, but SharePoint 2013 sees a maturation in all of these features that have been around for maybe one or two versions, but also the introduction and integration of others. Knowing how to use these features, and for some of us almost more importantly why we should be using these features, is the key to embracing this newer part of our computing experience. Being able to leverage the information it provides to elevate our content and our relationships is the ultimate goal, even though it may not seem obvious at first how that's going to happen. It's far more than just having friends or keeping track of where your colleagues happen to be today. Now, I don't think of myself as being old by any means, but I am not part of the millennial generation. They're the ones who have grown up on social media. In case you haven't heard the term before, millennials are the new generation. Those that are currently about 18 to 34 years old or so. Technically, I think they're defined as being born somewhere between about 1980 and 2000, but that's not critical. One of the reasons SharePoint and you need to utilize social networking tools is because that's how millennials are used to and expect to work, and they are now entering the workforce in droves. It's also how they expect to communicate. Now, if you're a little slow on the uptake of it all, and that's okay if you are, and maybe you haven't gotten your Facebook or your Twitter account set up yet, SharePoint just might provide an easy way for you to get into the swing of things. Here's why. When the social networking tools first started to appear in SharePoint in 2007, and more so in 2010, I was one of those who said, hang on, why do we need this here? Maybe we don't want our business environment to be like all those social sites that we can't seem to get away from. I have to admit, I've changed my tune. Social networking tools aren't about wasting time or adding badges just for the sake of adding little glitzy things to your screen. There are some better and more important rules about them. First of all, as I've already mentioned a couple of times, this is how millennials work, and we have to accommodate how people work. Now, I know millennials aren't the only part of the workforce, but we've already had to engage the older part of the workforce, bring them into using electronic communications and electronics and technology. So engaging millennials is simply part of keeping everybody in track. Secondly, we also know that all of these things are really free tools. At least we've already invested in them. Like in SharePoint 2013, it's already part of the software. So we don't want to waste things that we have, and we certainly want to take advantage of them and use them to increase our return on investment. Thirdly, they're also commonly understood. In other words, not only millennials, but most adults these days know how to use it, at least at a basic level. Another reason it's important is because it is readily available across platforms. It's in everything, we see it everywhere, and once somebody knows how to use these things, like ratings or following things, it's very easy to transfer those skills to other platforms. Like if you already know how to use Facebook and how to like somebody or follow somebody, then you're going to be very comfortable following somebody in SharePoint as well. The concept is exactly the same. Probably most importantly, though, than just the convenience and the comfort of our users, is the value it brings to the workplace. These social networking or social computing tools can provide valuable business insights. Take tagging as an example. I can organize content in my own way in SharePoint by simply adding tags to it. This allows me to organize information the way it makes sense to me. If I don't happen to be a SharePoint administrator, this can be something that can really help me organize things in my way that otherwise I won't be able to do. By my simply applying my own tags, I'm also helping contribute to the overall folksonomy of SharePoint in my organization. Folksonomy is just a fancy term to say kind of the casual categorizing and classifying of content that happens as people like you and me use it. It helps people organize content well and to be able to find it. These tags actually become built into part of the searches of SharePoint. By tagging content in SharePoint, I help myself classify and find content. I inform others of work that I have done or the content that I have found valuable, and I help my organization construct a real, usable way of categorizing, storing, and indexing content that will be useful for me and my colleagues as well. How is it effective for my colleagues? Well, let's say that my admin follows what I do. When I comment on a document, he will receive notification that lets him know what I'm reading. That way, he can follow in my footsteps or read it because he needs to keep up on what things I'm reading, or maybe because he respects me as a subject matter expert, and if I find it valuable, he might find it valuable as well. All of these things can and do occur by my simply tagging or rating a document. Now, multiply that by 10 or 100 or 1,000 employees and all of the relationships that those employees have. We won't get into the math of networks and how many people that actually would be, or what they call how many edges, but that really is important, and you can now see how powerful these tools can be, both to individuals, to relationships within the organization, and to the organizations as a whole. Trust me, if they were just about finding out what Mark had for lunch or thought about last night's reality TV episode, I'd be the first to recommend that you do not use them. But they aren't. They have significant business value. Oh, and by the way, it is also nice to be able to pull up the picture of someone you just had a call with and see a picture of them. Maybe learn a little bit about what their interests are, or maybe what their history is with the company or what school they attended. In this disjointed, dispersed workplace, we sometimes never get a chance to meet our colleagues. Social networking features like chat and profiles gives us an opportunity, if even a small one, to get to know our coworkers. I've alluded to social networking features in SharePoint, but what exactly are they? In part 2 of this topic, we'll take a look at the list and discuss some specifics about them.